Hey guys, Woods Farm here. Just starting a new project today. It's beginning April 2020, and this is going to be the first video in a series. We're building a replica vehicle here. Sd.Kfz 222. This is a World War II German Armoured Scout Car that we're going to be building. So, some time ago we purchased this chassis from guys down in the States. They had started this project. And we brought it back here. We got it for a pretty good price if you consider the price of the engine and a lot of the components like the axles. And then they had the skeleton kind of started. So this was a good jumping off point for us, and we picked it up. Now, I got a little sidetracked on one of my other projects from the Woods Farm, the Kubo wagon. So I'm about a year behind when I wanted to actually start working on this, but we're getting to it now. And over the course of looking at this vehicle, we noticed there were some indiscrepancies with some of the angles and measurements. Now, we bought it from the guys. They said they took measurements off of a museum piece down in the States. And for the most part, a lot of the measurements are correct, but what we noticed is the angle of the side and the overall height are incorrect. Essentially, it's too tall as it stands right now. It's at least 7 to 8 inches too tall. Eventually, there'll be a turret on the top, which adds even more height. So what we need to do is we need to make some adjustments to the framework in an effort to get the overall roof line down, so it's more closer matching the original. So one of the bonuses, we got this engine. We have had this engine running fairly recently, so a lot of things are already done. This is the chassis from a mid-90s pickup truck. And this is one of the other issues that we were running into. As it stands, the frame on this chassis is significantly wider than what would have been on an original. And that is causing the angle of that side pillar there, that's the side piece, to be not correct. And that's also extending the height of the roof line. So this is one of the problems we're going to have to deal with. So if I was going to do this project from scratch, I would probably just fabricate a frame. And there's a lot of replicas that are, floating around. There's a couple in the States. There's a lot over in Europe. A lot of guys use Land Rover chassis. That seems to work out pretty well. This engine is also very powerful and way too big for our application, but we've got it. It works, so we're going to go with it. And I'm also not going to change the frame. The axles are already mounted. We want to get this project done in a reasonable amount of time, so monkeying around with the axles and the suspension is just something we don't want to put time into. Originally, the 222 had independent suspension, and what we're doing here is we've got two axles, a Chrysler 9-inch axle, and I think it's a Dana 44 at the front. And that's just set up with like basic leaf springs. So this isn't going to perfectly replicate the way that the original looked in terms of the suspension, but it will work. And I think at the end of the day, we're going to get a pretty good replica of the original vehicle. One of the benefits and reasons we liked this chassis and we went down and bought it is the fact that they went with the rear engine design, which replicates the original. A lot of the ones built on Land Rovers, the engine is in the front, and that creates a situation where you need to change kind of the shape of the front of the vehicle to accommodate the engine. So this one is a rear engine. It should end up being four-wheel drive. There will be a transfer case somewhere in the center, And what they did to get this to work correctly is they actually flipped the orientation of that axle. So apparently that's what we need to do to get it to run in the correct orientation in terms of forward being forward gears and reverse being reverse. Okay, so here is where we're at right now. We got rid of the frame, the extension on the frame, which was a 3-inch piece of channel, and we basically tipped it on its side and brought it in. And what that's going to allow us to do is we're going to be able to take this bar here and push it in to replicate a slightly thinner frame. And that should help us deal with the different angles and also get the top down lower. So right now we just go to system. What we're going to do is we're going to cut out the side supports here, and then we're going to bring this top square section here down to the right height, and then we'll figure out and cut these where they need to be. So we managed to lower the roof line significantly. It's not quite as low as the original, but we're close. We also got the angle of the side supports a lot closer. Best I can tell, the original is around 55 degrees and these are around 60. It's a lot sharper of an angle, looks a lot more like the actual 222. So we still have some work to do. We might get back at it tomorrow. We got some 45-degree braces for the frame that we extended here. And we're going to actually start maybe working on the nose a bit, because obviously that angle right there is not correct now. We might have to lower the nose just a little bit, play around with some stuff, but it's looking a lot better than it did before. Okay, so that's the end of day 2. I put in a good long day today. The nose rib here, we've got that readjusted, and the next sort of rib or support back, that's readjusted. That had to drop down. And we got the proportions pretty good. So those sheets of plywood were, the reason we put those on there is so that is one solid flat panel on the original, and we needed, so we had a starting point at the front, and then we had this line right here to work from. So to be able to figure out exactly where this rib here needs to be in terms of the windshield, we figured it would be good to put a flat panel on there, and that would allow us to get the angle just right and the placement just right. And we did some clamping, and we had a mechanism clamped on so we could level this, and we double checked all our measurements. Everything seems good. That length right there of that rib was about 3/4 of an inch longer. We couldn't figure out why, but for the most part it's symmetrical. I think the windshield might be just a little too high, but it's not bad. So if you step back, you can kind of see it. Now the tires are probably going to be 30-32 inch, so they're going to be a little bit bigger. But we're well on our way at this point. There's a little bit more fabricating for the frame up at the front end, but we have to start fabricating the skeleton at the back around the engine. But I think before we're going to start on the back, I'm actually going to start working on the steering system. We're going to go off the steering box that we've got, and I need to fabricate some supports that will hold the steering column and the gearbox for the steering wheel. So one of the unique features of this vehicle is the steering wheel is actually pivoted inward at a 90-degree angle to the actual steering column, and that's to give you more clearance. I think a few of the German half-tracks also have a steering wheel system like that. So I did a lot of research, and 90-degree gearboxes are pretty pricey. So I actually picked up this piece. It is from a ATV drivetrain, and I think this is going to work for our actual 90-degree pivot for the steering wheel. So you can see on a normal car, the steering wheel would be like this, and that's not really going to work. On this vehicle, the steering wheel is pivoted inward like that. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, so that's it for Project 222 for this episode. I'm going to wrap it up here. If you want to see more of this project as it progresses, definitely like, subscribe, and check out my channel for more videos. Thanks for watching.